Welcome back to Create Craft Costume. I am Cheryl, and this is my very capable crafting buddy, Ashley. And she has something amazing to show you.
I know it's November 1st. Doesn't matter. You don't have to come at me in the comments. But am I going to start sharing all my Christmas content right now? Yes. Yes, I am. And that's going to start with our project today. Last year, Dollar Tree came out with the wooden boxes that a lot of people have been using. And Michael's also had some comparable boxes. And first thing that popped into my mind was advent calendars. So
how do you look at a box and think advent calendar?
Because have you ever, like the Primark advent calendars, if anyone's ever bought any of those, you can't fit anything inside them. So I really like that these are big, large boxes because you can actually fit cool items inside it and make it reusable.
She probably won't tell you this, but she took these little boxes that I've seen a million times, never thought a thing about them, and put them together and made the most spectacular advent calendar I have ever seen. And I am old. I've seen lots of advent calendars. These blew my mind. I had nothing to say other than when I saw them. You want to watch this.
Well, I hope you feel the same way.
They will.
This video is all about putting the first advent calendar together. This is just using the boxes from Michael's, which of course you could switch out for Dollar Tree, a pad of scrapbook paper, and some Dollar Tree ornaments. So let's get started. I decided that I was going to make a 25, so that means that I needed 25 of these boxes. Now, this box is from the Dollar Tree, but Michael's also sells similar boxes, and that is what I am using for this particular advent calendar. The main difference between the Dollar Tree and the Michael's is not only the price point, these are closer to $2.50 a piece, but these do have ones that come with these little handles. Plus, as an added bonus, these do fit together better than the Dollar Tree ones, as you will see in my next advent calendar. Once you've decided how many that you want, come in with some wood glue. I just got mine from Dollar Tree. You can use the Gorilla Glue or any other that you would like, and you glue them in whatever arrangement that you would like. Mine ended up being a 5x5 because I am doing a 25-day one. This is what it looks like with the drawers removed, and they have been wood glued, and I let this dry overnight. Now, here's what I mean by these fit together fairly nice, and a lot of the unevenness actually is probably just because I didn't line them up correctly. Some tips when gluing: definitely use clamps. So I used not only the larger ones, but I used the smaller ones from the Crafter Square. These are found in the automotive collection, and both of these came from Dollar Tree, but I found that the clamps really helped me get the stability. Definitely let it dry its intended time period, and I removed the drawers because I'm gonna have to stain the drawers anyway. Once this has dried for 24 hours, my next step is I want to stain this. I think this wood is going to take stain really, really well, so I don't want to cover it. And I actually am going to stain all components. So I'm going to stain the inside, I'm going to stain the sides, and I'm going to stain the back. So one of the first things that I have to do on the back is remove these stickers. And here is a close-up of the information, including the dimensions and the barcode. Now, if you watched my previous Valentine's Day video, I have stained Dollar Tree crates before using this Minwax penetrating stain. Because this is so large, and at the time that I'm filming this, this is really hot outside. So I'm actually gonna do the wood stain outside to help it dry faster and help keep my craft area clean. I'm gonna be using the same stain, but I'm gonna change my application just a little bit. In the previous video, I used a sponge brush. However, as mentioned, it's a sponge. Its whole goal is to soak up a lot of liquid. In order to apply it, I'm going to be using two separate tools. For the larger outside portions, I am actually going to apply it with a sock. So I will put my hand in a vinyl glove, put the sock over my hand, and then I will dip that into the wood and get the open, flat areas really easy. It is a stain. Getting it out is not easy and sometimes not possible. So make sure you protect your surface before you do any of your staining. Now, other than the stain, every other tool here came from the Dollar Tree. And it's just the same application as the crate mentioned in my previous video. You're going to apply it with the grain before you wipe it off. However, this piece has a lot more minute details and crevices because you're dealing with 25 rectangular objects instead of just one. So I'm going to try this angled paintbrush. Now this was a makeup brush, but I don't see why I can't change its use. So I'm going to use this angled brush, and I'm going to be using this to get into the small creviced areas like you see here. As on the instructions, part of doing a stain means that you need to wipe it away. If you don't wipe the excess stain, that's when you get those patchy, sometimes sticky parts that people don't like. You avoid those by following all of the instructions. So I just took a clean sock. It came from the exact same Dollar Tree pack, and I worked in stages. So I stained some and then wiped it away. I stained some and then wiped it away. This ensures that I get the most even stain. And as a reminder, that sock was clean, and as you can see, there is stain on it. So there's a reason that you wipe away what the grain will not take. This will ensure a beautiful finished product. And let's get real, when we are spending this much time on it, we want it to look good. After having completed several of these boxes, I then picked up on the fastest method. For me, that was taking 2 fingers and dipping it into the stain and using those fingers to complete all of the sides. The makeup/paintbrush is where I used the detail work. I did actually try to paint the entire inside with the brush just to see, but because it doesn't soak up as much stain as the sock does, it just took a lot longer. And I was already taking more time than I had anticipated. So this is how I sped up my process and then just wiped off the excess. Now, after applying the stain and wiping it off in stages, this is what your base will look like front and back. As you can see, the Michaels boxes takes the stain a little bit differently, and the lighter, whiter parts are some manufacturing glue, but I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Now, I was really happy until I realized, oh my gosh, I'm not done. We still have 25 drawers. So once you realize that you have already committed to this large of an advent calendar and there is no backing out now, the last step is in fact to stain all of the drawers. Luckily, you are going to use the same methods. You're going to put your hand in a vinyl glove, put a sock over that for the large areas, and then your brush is going to help you with that minute detail work. There are also manufacturing errors on the drawers. So these white areas in the corner, no matter how much stain you put over them, it is not going to take the stain because the glue is blocking the wood grain. It'll be tempting to keep going over them because you think you've missed it. Nope, that's just manufacturing glue. And you will see it in several different areas. Just make sure you stain what you can and move on. One more tip for my design is that I am not going to be staining the front of the drawers just so that I can save some stain. Instead, I will be decorating it with paper, so there's no need for me to cover the front. All right, truth talk. The lighting has changed because the day has changed. I am famous for incorrectly gauging the amount of time a task will take, and this was no exception. This took me so much longer than I anticipated, and so after almost 3.5 hours of straight staining, I was ready to go inside and go to bed. This is the next morning, where I'm very excited to put the drawers in their spot and take them downstairs for a different step. This next step is preparing the drawers for paper by removing the handles. Now, you don't have to. You could make an insert on the paper and glue around the handles, but I just felt that was too tedious. And I did fully intend on putting the handles back, except some of these are glued on way better than others. In fact, one of them was glued on so tightly, I actually cracked the front of the drawer and had to repair it, which is fine if you're covering it in paper, but it's not great if you're staining or wanting to replace the handles. So just as a heads up. Now, in order to fill in the hole, because I didn't just want to leave it blank since I am putting handles back on top, I then took Dollar Tree spackle and filled in the holes and let those dry overnight to give it as flat a surface as possible. While you are removing your handles, I do recommend taking out your drawers and leaving them in the exact same order that you pulled them out of, because some of these aren't as uniform as others. Now, these are better than the Dollar Tree boxes, but you still don't want to have to go fishing for which box fits which slot. Plus, you don't want it to mess up your pattern once you start putting decorative paper on here. So this was my last row on the final calendar. This was my second to last row. This was my middle row. And the key is going to be keeping it in this order for the entire time that you are decorating, because it will not only make your final presentation look the best, but it will make it the easiest to put all of the drawers back. So now that the drawers are ready for paper, the paper choice is extensive and it is completely up to you. So I have collected a couple holiday pieces of paper over the years, and this is my all-time favorite holiday stack that I have ever used, but this is seriously probably 10 years old. I do remember getting it at Michael's, but you can use any holiday paper that you want. So I'm just going to be pulling bits and pieces from here and from my stash that I already have. Now these have dried overnight and they make a really nice flat smooth surface that I'm not worried about putting the paper over. So the next step is I'm just going to Mod Podge it. I have this furniture Mod Podge. I don't think that's required. I just want to make mine a little more hardy since it's available. But a few tips before we begin, I would treat this like planning out a quilt. And what I mean is I would cut out every single piece before I do any gluing, because then I can see how the colors are distributed. You can make the best pattern for yourself, and then you don't have to possibly redo a drawer or maybe have too much color on one side than another. So I would highly recommend planning out your pattern and playing with your pieces before you ever do any Mod Podge or glue, because that way you're going to be able to present the paper in the best way possible. I decided that I wanted to layer some of these papers on top of each other, and this is just a shape cutout. I do have a rolling Sizzix die cut machine. I just used one of my die cuts and I decided which papers I was going to layer on top. Once I have Mod Podged the paper on, I'm going to turn it over so that I can not only readjust if it's too large, but also so I can help the paper adhere and stay flat to the front of the box. Another tip that I would recommend is I would start with your middle and build out. What do you want to be the most bold? How do you want to make it symmetrical if you want it that way? And then build out from there. And here's what they look like after they have dried for 24 hours. Now, as you can see, I did have some bleeding, And I think that's because this paper is actually from the Dollar Tree. And then this is not cardstock. This was actually just paper. So in order to fix this, I'm just gonna recut this shape in a different paper and I will put it over these two boxes. But that's the only repair I need to make. Now, you can do one of two things. You can either make sure that your cuts are more precise before you glue it on, or as you can see here, I have quite a bit of overhang on this. And particularly when you want it to lie flat, I'm going to trim the edges to make sure that this will be as close to the box size as possible. Some people may use a nail file, or there's other ways. Because this paper is so thick, I am just gonna take a razor blade and I'm gonna go right along these edges and trim all of the boxes up. Before giving the entire unit, that includes the stained wood part and the boxes, I'm going to cover them in a clear coat, because that way it will make them the most durable before we attach the handles. Now, in order to clear coat them, I put all of the drawers back in the base, took the base outside, and completely sprayed all of it together. So I picked up these handles on eBay. I will leave a link to them down below. And these are going to be perfect for the idea that I had for the numbers. So now these did come with little mini screws, but they are a bit too long for the drawers in question. So instead of screwing them on, I'm actually going to use E6000, and I'm just going to come and place them in the middle of each drawer. So that means after I place them, I'm going to let these dry overnight, and then we will finish the embellishing. Once your knobs are all glued down, of course, you now can not only open the drawers, but you are ready for your numbers. And I decided I'm going to do mine a little bit differently because I found these numbered brads, and I'm actually going to take the back of the brad off, and then I'm going to glue it right on top of the knob. So that way you will see the numbers on the knob as you are pulling it out. The brad is actually attached to the number itself. So there is no just like pulling and wriggling it off because it is actually attached to the metal. So in order to get this off, I am going to cut it as close as I possibly can. And then I'm going to fold back what I wasn't able to cut off. And that should be hidden behind the glue. That one I was actually able to cut pretty close. I'm going to fold this part back and I will hide this behind the glue. This is what it looks like after being folded back and cut. And now I'm just going to add some E6000 and glue it right on top of the knob. And once they are all glued and E6000 on, I have let this dry overnight, and this is what it looks like. Now, at this point, you could be done. But as someone once told me at a Comic-Con that I loved so much, Gryffindors are nothing if not extra. So I'm going to be taking these Dollar Tree ornaments and I will be adhering these to the top of the advent calendar. That is my first 25-day Christmas Advent calendar.
I know there are naysayers that say Christmas starts December 1st, but with Advent calendars, you have to start them in November because you have to give them to them to start December 1st. Because if you start making it December 1st, it will be Christmas before you get it done. So that's why we're doing this November, so you can prepare it November and present it December 1st. Enjoy it all month long.
I will also say this was one of those projects that got away from me a little bit. So if you are starting now, good luck.
Maybe scale it down just a little. But it can be done.
It can be done. Full disclosure, this took me a period of at least 5 weeks. That includes dry time. Okay, so don't like, you could shorten it up if you needed to, but it got bigger than I anticipated.
Shocking.
And of course, remember, you can switch this to anything that you want it to be. You can change the arrangements of the box. Of course, you can use different pads of paper. You can use different ornaments. I just wanted to go for that very classic Christmas look. And while this one does feature the Michaels boxes, please, please, please subscribe below, because I will be featuring the Dollar Tree boxes in another advent calendar this week. So you'll be able to compare the two.
Which is also the most spectacular advent calendar I've ever seen. Just a little bit smaller, but unbelievable. Was I right? Comment. Let me know if I was right. Did it blow your mind? Was it the most amazing thing you've ever seen? I'd like to know if you thought so.
I'll be sure to show her. I will let her know.
Please, let me know.
If you want to see the next advent calendar that has a more specific theme to it, please make sure subscribe down below. You will see a link to our social channels as well if you want any behind the scenes looks, and we will see you in our next Christmas video.
Take care.